everybody! Welcome one and all to a brand new Friday of streams. God damn it, I always miss the cue when it comes to the mic, huh? I always miss it. It's a change that I can never adjust to. I guess it's a VTuber moment. Okay. On this side of the screen we have the camera. Say hi to the camera! We've introduced it a little bit during the Genshin Impact stream of this week, where I introduced the concept of a cat cam. Apparently people like the cat cam, so I'll see how this goes, and if this goes well, then we maybe keep the camera on. Over on this side we have a tier list, and we're gonna be ranking every single gaming input that I have available to my hands. And we're gonna go in the order that they appear here. So for home consoles controllers, we're gonna go in order of release. But for handhelds, we're gonna go in opposite order of obtention. So I'm gonna go with the one that I received the most recent. It feels illegal to say that way. But yeah, it is the most recent up to the very first. And those who know me so super well already know what's the last console I'll be talking about today. You know what they say, leave the best one for last. Also, that's a kind of a soft spoiler. I do have to make a couple of clarifications today, because I will be talking a lot about all of these controllers, and I feel like some of you out there might feel a little bit brushed off whenever I say something about a controller, or whenever I put some controller in D tier, let's just call it like that. Do note that I feel like every single controller and control input method here is at the very least a 7 out of 10. Or a 5 out of 7. Like, every single controller here is good. Like, no controller here is bad. Some even start at an 8. At an 8 out of 10. Or a 6 out of 7. So then why would I say that some controllers are D tier? Well, it's all a matter of the good old word called comfort. And if I don't feel comfortable using a controller, boy will I tell you. Boy will I tell you. But no, just because I put a controller in D tier doesn't mean that the controller itself is bad. Au contraire. It might be in B tier, it might be in D tier because I don't feel good using it. I don't want to be like the average YouTuber that goes, this controller does so little, therefore I don't like this controller in particular. Like, if I do that, I've failed as a content creator. Or as a VTuber in general. Because what I want to talk is not on the quality of these controllers, is how I feel using them. And just so everyone is clear with me, every single one of the control inputs that I'm gonna be talking about today here is going to be, at the very least, a 7 out of 10. So they're already good controllers. Or handhelds. Not all of them can be winners. You know, not everyone can be a winner. Okay. So up first, this is gonna be the weirdest and most uncomfortable stream that I'll ever have to make. Also, you see the Super NES and the Super Famicom controller in one single slot. We're gonna talk about them both. So first off, we have. I don't feel that bad in keeping this pose if I'm like looking at this side. I don't feel bad in keeping this pose if I'm. Oh shit. If I'm talking about several things, I don't feel bad if I keep this pose. So first off, we have the NES controller. Now, do note that the NES controller I'm showing here is the one that has the short cord, because this is supposed to be the one from the NES Classic. So here it is in all of its splendor, from 1985 into the world of 2016. At least I think it was 2016 that the NES Classic was revealed and released to the wild world. Where does this thing belong to? Okay, yeah, I have a mess of my wires and a lot of controllers over here. It's very, very messy. It's very, very messy, but we'll do what we want. We'll do what we can. So the NES controller. Do I have a way of like leaning closer to this? Follow me. Everything is fallen. Falling. All things are falling. That's a spoof of another song. So the NES controller is, well, what you see is what you get. It's quite honestly a controller that I haven't attuned to, but every single button here feels good to press. You know, I don't know who said that the edges were too sharp. Like, have you seen one of these controllers? It's very soft for it to be like squared off. It's not like there's hard edges on this thing. It's smoothened out. I've even tested like a real NES controller and it doesn't feel sharp at all. If you just like angle your indexes like this, or just leave them on the back, it doesn't feel that bad to control. I don't know. These buttons, while mushy and all, I feel like are a little bit too soft for my liking. But boy, do I have a good clicking sound. Now, what I don't feel very particularly inclined towards is the start and select buttons, but the presentation of this controller is really pristine. Like, it's very beautiful to look at. Like, I understand why a controller from 1985 can be so revered nowadays in this day and age. I do like the D-pad. I don't feel like the D-pad having a cross, like having the arrows also pointing out, like protrusions and like bevels to the inside of the controller are required. And I'm much more of a fan of how Nintendo does it nowadays. But all in all, I say that this is a good controller. I wouldn't exactly put it in D tier because it's not hard to hold. Like, I'm holding it just fine like this, and it doesn't feel bad on the hands. Like, I'm trying to do this thing like this. Oh, this angle, it feels way good to like showcase the controller to the camera. So yeah, but like I said, I don't feel like too attached to this controller to rank it. I know that it's solid. I know that it's a solid controller, but I'm not gonna just say, oh, it's S tier because it's the NES controller. It has to go high. No. I don't feel like the NES controller deserves that standard. I'm gonna say that the controller marks a very good benchmark as to what controllers should be ranked on. Therefore, I'm gonna leave this one at C tier. There we go. I don't know why it took a little while to get bumped up to C. Okay, up to the next controller, and this is the exception that I wanted to make before, because for this I'm gonna be showcasing the Super NES variant, the Super NES Nintendo Switch Online controller, the one that has the USB-C at the top. And just for the record, I own both versions. I own both variants, and I'm gonna say it right now, the Super Famicom version is the better one. I'm sorry, America. I'm very, very sorry, but I'm also not sorry. How can you not love the little colorful buttons? How can you not love this? It's amazing! It's so pretty! It's gumdrops that you... Okay. But if this is talking about both controllers, then yeah, let's talk about both controllers. So let me just bump these things to the side so I don't create any unnecessary accidents, and not that anyone is not concerned in my in me possibly causing a topple and revealing my face. Could you imagine that? A VTuber showing their face? That would be a disaster. That would be an absolute disaster. Oh my god. There we go. Ah! Stop that! Okay, we're back. So, first off, the Super NES controller. What can I say? This peaked. The moment this thing released, gaming was never the same the moment this thing entered the market. It's such an iconic design that it set the foundation for future controllers. We're gonna talk about that a little bit further into the future. It paved the way for the essentials that a controller needs. Directional D-pad, 4 face buttons, 2 bumpers, and 2 option buttons on the center. And no controller ever would not want to use this as a basis. Like, even when considering the 6-button controller from the Sega Genesis, even considering that controller, you can tell that they also wanted to cave in on the 6-button craze. Because, yeah, if you think about it, the Super NES controller has 6 inputs and 2 options. 6 inputs, 2 options, and 4 directions. And that's basically all you need. You don't need anything else for that. It's very, very comfortable to hold. Like, absolutely gorgeous to hold. Like, this is a controller that just melts into your hands. It rests like that. It rests like that, and it's very, very nice. It's very, very nice to hold, very, very nice to press these buttons. But the thing that I don't like about the Super NES controller in particular, it's these concave and convex button differences. Like, I don't get it. I don't get why it has to be like that. Why can't every button be exactly the same? I don't get it. I don't get why this was a design change exclusive to America, because Japan and Europe got this controller. And I feel so charmed by how smooth the buttons are. Like, once I started using the Super Famicom controller, I never looked back. I was like, you get out. I don't need you anymore. I'm all about this. All about the colors, all about the shape, and did you notice something interesting about this controller? Is that the fonts on both controllers are very different from one another. But then you look at the L and R buttons and they're technically essentially the same. But every other button, every other font in these two is different. And I don't know, it just calls to me how this one is a little bit brighter and how this one's just a little bit shinier than its American counterpart. And that's no offense to the American counterpart. I like the colors of both the soft and the darker purple that we have here, but I feel like it would be a little bit better if all of the buttons were for one single shape. Because as you're gonna learn eventually from me ranking all of these controllers, I am not particularly a fan of YB. I'm more of a fan of BA, of doing this instead to play my run and gun games or any of the sort. Could you focus? 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 Can you focus? So, how do we... Could you please focus? Hold on, technical tentacular difficulties. Why does it not want to focus? Come on. I'm gonna do the old reliable of just boom. There we go. Problem solved. Okay, so now what do we rank these controllers? They're high A. They're gonna be high A. Not easy to top. Not easy to top. High A tier. This to me is a very, very good controller. An absolutely comfortable controller. And one that would definitely set the stage. One that would definitely set the stage for controllers to come. And from one controller that set things to come to one that didn't necessarily create a thunderstorm just yet. I need a space to leave all of these controllers, man. The lack of space is killing me. Okay, but here we go. From one controller that created a ripple to the controller that the said ripple affected. It's the PlayStation Dual Digital. Do note, the PlayStation Dual Digital. I'm gonna be completely honest. I've been trying to get used to this controller. I've been severely trying to get used to this controller. You can tell that Nintendo and Sony were working on something because who can not lie to? This is a Super NES controller with a second set of bumpers in the back. Who are you gonna lie to? This is just a Super NES controller with handles. And I'm not particularly sure how I feel about the handles because I've been using this controller to play the latest streams of Intelligent Cube and IQ Final. And I feel the strain of this controller in my hands. It doesn't feel nice. I feel like this is a fault of the PlayStation Classic variant of this controller. Because I've heard that the real Sony PlayStation Dual Digital controller feels a lot more nicer on the hands, but like to me, I just get cramps all over and it doesn't translate well into a tier list if I'm necessarily talking about how I feel about this controller in particular. So I'm gonna say that I at the very least think that it's a good controller, it's just that on my hands it doesn't feel nice. So yeah. Yeah, below the NES controller, I don't feel comfortable holding this. And now we reach to, I think, the highest controversial point of this entire discussion. Because when we talk about controllers, there is one particular controller that always gets the flack. Always gets the mockery. Every single time we want to talk about a controller, the discussion always returns to how ridiculous this whole thing is. The Nintendo 64 controller is the most polarizing controller, and I'm gonna say it right now. It's better than the Super NES controller. And you are all ready to take part of this discussion. Okay, let's start at the beginning. I was raised as a 5-year-old. I got my N64 directly from some unknown source named parents. Even when I was 5 and I still didn't speak English because English is not my mother language, look it up. Even as a 5-year-old, I was able to grasp and understand what the concept of the N64 controller was. Having only played with a Super NES controller before that, I understood perfectly how this controller was meant to be held. Because it's not like you need 3 hands for this controller. This controller is the most genius design in terms of controllers both now and back then. And I feel like most of the people that criticize this controller only have emulation to blame. Because the entitlement of emulators changed the landscape of N64 controller appreciation forever. Since, let's just compare it to a modern light controller. I'm gonna use one controller that I'm gonna showcase later. Not exactly this one, but I'm gonna just put it on the feet to make the comparison. You take... I never use this controller. You take, say for example, a DualShock 4 to play your N64 games, and you bind your N64 games to it, and you're like, oh yeah, sure, I can bind the left stick to the stick to the left stick, the C buttons to the C buttons to the second stick, L and R to L1 and R1, and then A and B to X and to cross and square. But you're forgetting something. You're forgetting that the three-pronged design of the N64 controller was because developers had ideas on how to use the controller in each and every single individual hold form. So, for example, hold on, I'm being peaked and pinged. Why am I being so pinged today? Okay. So, for example, if your game had 3D control, you would hold it from the center. You would hold it from the center. It's easy as that. If your game had more precise platforming, you would hold it like this. And if your game was more of an arcade style shooter, you would hold it like this. And this variability on how to hold the controller is what makes the N64 controller the N64 controller. Because you're never expected to hold every single wing of the controller at the same time. It's always depending on the game that the developers want you to play. On Kirby 64, you don't hold the controller like this. You hold it like this, because it uses the D-pad. On Super Mario 64, you don't hold the controller like this. You hold it like this because it uses the N64's control stick. And at every single possible hold form, you get access to two of the three back buttons right immediately. So if you're using the digital, you get access to L and R. If you're using the analog, you're getting Z and R. And if you're using the arcade style, you're getting L and Z. It's always meant to be held in the way that the game expects you to hold it. And of course, some games might take advantage of that and say, oh, we're gonna put little trinkets and Easter eggs inside those buttons that you're not pressing, but those buttons are never meant to be pressed. For example, in Mario Parties 2 and 3, if you press the L button, you can do a taunt, an appeal. Same in the N64 original Smash Brothers. And on Mario Kart 64, if you tapped the L button, you could turn off the music. But it's never an option that's nigh required for gameplay. Therefore, you're not expected to use it on a daily basis. You're not gonna try and get your hand to reach the button on an unnatural way when you're not expected to use those buttons. Even that little action hurt my finger. Ow. 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 So I feel like the people who are very critical of how to hold an N64 controller is because they haven't had the chance to hold the N64 controller in all of the forms that the N64 controller wants to be held. So to those people, I recommend digging out your N64 and playing the following 3 Nintendo games: Super Mario 64, Kirby 64 The Crystal Shards, and Sin and Punishment. Because those 3 show you that a controller that has a stick on the left side and the D-pad on the left side also will not bring the same experience or the same layers of what I want to say fulfillment as the N64 controller would if you were to play it with something like a DualShock 4. Because if you map this, if you map Sin and Punishment to this, you would need to map it to the second stick, because the control stick, the main control stick, moves the reticle, not your character. And that's an important difference right there. Right there, that makes the N64 controller the one that makes sense, because on your left hand you would be moving Saki, and with the right hand you would be aiming the reticle. It is kind of cumbersome, but it is a control style that you get used to. And it's never out of your reach to try it. That's why I think the N64 controller is an A-tier controller. Plus, if you're playing fighting games, it has 6 buttons on the side. As you can tell, A, B, and the C buttons are all shaped in a 6-button layout. So you can attempt it. You can attempt using the N64 controller as a fight stick. It's not the most comfortable fight stick, but it is a fight stick nonetheless. Okay. If we were having troubles with the dual digital, everything was wired and tangled and all that stuff. You might not want to hear what I have to say about this controller that I had to unearth from the depths of literally everything. I want to see if I can get it to be cleaned up a little bit before showcasing it to the world, because this baby was stored away. This is my DualShock. Oh, it looks better on camera. God damn. Wish I could look better on camera. I'm speaking for myself here, but I don't think I look good on camera. No matter. It's not a discussion about how I look on camera, it's about a discussion of controllers. And what else can we say? This is a high A tier. You're gonna be surprised, but I have a lot of good things to say about the DualShock, the very first DualShock. So starting off right off the bat, the analog controller. This is the emblematic controller. This is what every controller nowadays strives for. And every single controller has the DualShock to thank for. 4 directional buttons, 4 action buttons, 2 sets of bumpers, 2 analog sticks, both with clickable buttons, and 2 option buttons in the center. And I don't know why, but I just enjoy the shape of the DualShock and how soft its buttons are, way more in comparison to the Dual Digital. And I walked in this tier list knowing full well that I would walk out liking the DualShock more than I like the Super NES, not more than I like the Super NES controller. I think I like the Super NES controller a little bit more than what I like the original DualShock. But color me impressed, the DualShock still holds up even after all of these years. Which is amazing how, trust in the sticks, everybody, unless you're more of a D-pad player. Which is honestly impressive, because the shape of the DualShock never exactly changed that much. We're gonna bring it up again to its sibling, the DualShock 4. You can tell that the things have gotten a little bit more stylized. We're gonna talk about that when we get there, but right now we're not there, so get out of here. Get out of there. We're not there yet. We're talking about the DualShock. The DualShock is a precious controller. I like the DualShock. The buttons feel soft and nice, and the buttons feel soft and nice. Every single bumper is really good to like mess around with. Both sticks still hold up pretty well even today, and the D-pad. It's a PlayStation D-pad. I've never been a fan of a PlayStation D-pads, but every button here holds up incredibly well, and it's a controller that I enjoy using quite a lot. I remember playing a lot of Crash Bandicoot, CTR, Parappa, even my little romps with Mega Man X5 and Marvel vs. Capcom. I have a soft spot for this controller. It is a very good controller. One that I think Sony had the guts to never really iterate too much outside of that concept. It weirds me out too, because if I compare this to the Dual Digital, it feels like it's the same. It feels like it's similar-ish, but at the same time it's not. The Dual Digital feels more angular shaped, whereas the DualShock feels like it's more rounded on the edges. Like it's I don't know, it might be a perception thing, or it might be the fact that I've gotten so used to the shape of the DualShock, then going back to the Dual Digital feels a little bit clunky or somewhat empty. Then again, it might be a fault of the Dual Digital that was bundled with the PlayStation Classic, and not exactly my own fault. If I were to find the real Dual Digital out there, I bet that this comparison would be a lot different than what it is right now. But regardless of what I think about the Dual Digital, the DualShock 1 still remains one of the better controllers that Sony ever put out in the market. It's iconic. Iconic and emblematic, and important for what comes after, because there's a lot coming after. So thank you for your visit, dear DualShock from my PS1. I hope one day to get rid of your yellowing with some retro brighting, maybe. I don't know how it would be retro brighting the port of this controller, but I hope I can do a simplistic job. There's a lot of old in this controller. This controller is very, very old. Okay. And off to my biggest criticism of this entire realm. I need a minute. This pester of a controller over here is what I would like to label the controller of all time. I've had to think for quite a while about how I feel about this controller. I've had to think for quite some time about how I feel about this controller. Like, I've had to put thought behind what I have to say right now. I had to measure my words carefully and think about how I want to portray these thoughts into the masses. And the reality of the situation is that I think the GameCube controller is a great controller that got stuck in its era. Because design-wise, it brings nothing worthwhile to the future of gaming. Like, not even the analog triggers. I cannot be convinced that the analog triggers are a design inspiration that just travels into the future. Like, I don't feel like this controller does anything that certifyingly leaves its mark into the future. Hold on, it did the thing again. Is it still doing the thing? Focus on the controller, damn it. I guess that works. Okay, so let's get back to the point here. The sticks are absolutely beautiful. Hold on, record. The sticks are absolutely beautiful. The octagonal gate, absolutely beautiful. Both of these octagonal gates are really, really good. The buttons feel nice to press. I like the design layout of every single button orbiting around A. Oh shit. But I'm not a fan of the analog triggers. I'm not a fan of these. I'm not a fan of these. Because some games have you pressing all the way down. Some of them just have you activating upon just moving the thing. Some games do different things, but depending on if you move the thing or if you click the thing all the way down. And what the heck is this? Little gumdrop of a set button. I don't feel like this controller passes the test of time. It's stuck on the era of the GameCube, the only one era where this controller works flawlessly for every single situation and every single scenario. I definitely don't think ill of the GameCube controller. I just think that the GameCube controller itself is lost to time. It's a design that cannot live and cannot coexist nowadays. You tell me that you've tried to play any retro game nowadays that isn't Game Boy Advance with this controller and it worked for you, and I will not believe you. With this controller, you cannot play PlayStation reboots that haven't been reprogrammed to work with this controller. Because either you lack a second set of triggers, or you lack a second action button, or your main action is on B and your secondary action is on Y. At this point, why really bother? Design-wise, I like what they were aiming for, and I think this controller is really comfortable on your hands. But I genuinely believe that this controller is stuck perpetually on the age that it never acknowledged to leave. And I don't want a controller like that if it cannot passively be retranslated into the future. Even the controllers that mimic the GameCube shape are only taking it in design form, and they're not exactly modernizing the GameCube controller itself. Like, I can understand why people like the GameCube controller and why the people like the GameCube. I'm not one of them. I don't feel exactly strongly attached to the GameCube controller or the GameCube as a whole. But I cannot vibe with this controller. And when people say me that this controller is made for playing Smash Brothers, well, what do you think? What do you think about that? This controller is obviously made for Smash Brothers. Melee was a kick in the GameCube. A kick that was very, very good for the GameCube. But regrettably, if that's all it was, then you also need to consider other options to play this game. And we're gonna talk about those options later, but right now, this controller is stuck perpetually. And it doesn't matter how many iterations of it you try and remake and to bring back further into the present, it's never going to be the same kind of controller. Even if Nintendo made a Nintendo Switch Online GameCube controller, it wouldn't exactly be the GameCube controller that people want. Because the GameCube controller that people want is a controller that doesn't have the features that the NSO controller would have. It would include every single thing about the GameCube controller, just exactly how you remember. With the control sticks without pushable buttons, and 3 gumdrop buttons over here at the top being the ZL capture and home buttons, and the USB coordinate center, and LEDs at the top, much like how the N64 NSO controller does it. because it cannot be translated well enough into the future. Because if it were to, it would need a major redesign. It would need to be restructured, and at that point, it wouldn't be the GameCube controller anymore. It's a beautiful relic. It's a beautiful relic of its time. Please stop calling it back! I think I need a minute. So I'm gonna wait patiently as I cord this controller back up. Because I feel like I went on a tangent that I don't think many people will like. I know that there's a lot of online defense about the GameCube controller. And it's not exactly a thing that I can vibe with. I cannot vibe with the GameCube controller as it is. It's quite honestly the one controller I had the highest worries when coming into this, because everyone just mindlessly defends this controller without exactly saying why. But I feel like there's a lot of better controllers. Ergonomically, the GameCube controller does so many things right, but at the same time fails in so many basic details. But I cannot just rank it lower than the NES controller because I still understand it. And that's the thing. Me understanding the controller isn't exactly me saying that I like the controller or that I enjoy what it does. It's complicated, you know? It's really complicated. I need a drink. And I need a bed. Did I make a good idea today? Okay. Now that I have drank a little bit of tea, let's hop on to the next controller on the list, which is... Yeah, now we're talking. I feel like I don't say this enough. But I feel like people will have to listen to me on this because I really like the Wii controller. The Wii remote. I like it. It's still a B-tier controller. Like, it's still a B-tier. But the fact that it's a B tier doesn't change the fact that I like this controller. It's highly versatile, and it's absolutely a customizable experience. Because it doesn't matter how you hold it, you're always going to get something out of the Wii remote, regardless of of whether or not you hold it like it's a TV remote like this, or if you hold it like it's an NES controller like this. Fun fact. This is not as comfortable as it looks. This whole holding it on the side is not exactly that comfortable, but hey, at least on home console, this is a point in time where we would see the redesign to the D-pad to have the little lines instead of arrows or whatever the hell the houses were on the NES controller. Why the hell did they put houses on the NES controller buttons? I feel like there's a lot of things that they don't say about the Wii remote. But I like it. I think it's a solid A-tier controller. However, the fact that it is an A-tier controller doesn't mean that I feel like the controller does everything it can. And that's where this little dinker comes into the play. So we plug this in, so we tie and lock and secure it. We then plug it in, and now we have the Wii Remote and Nunchuck combo. And this, my friends, is the highest rated controller combination thus far. The Wii Remote and Nunchuck, to me, is my favorite out of the retro consoles that we're looking at today. And if you're saying, how can the Wii be retro? The Wii cannot be retro. It's about to turn 18. 18. Please. Please understand that the Wii is turning 18. Jesus Christ. Good golly. But yeah, I like the Wii Remote and Nunchuck. It is my favorite form of playing Wii games. Whenever possible. Because you have all of the flexibility of one hand going at it wild, as long as you can like reach in remains of your cord. And the other hand rests very well on the Wii Remote. It doesn't matter to me that you have less input than you would if you were playing, I don't know, with a regular controller or a classic controller. We're gonna talk about that in a minute. But it's the matter that holding them like this is comfortable. It's comfortable and flexible to the point where I don't need to think how I'm holding these controllers so much so as I'm having fun with them. I can just lean back or lean forward. I can just split up or keep them bundled or keep them conjoined together. You know? And if the game, like say Metroid Prime, I can just keep this controller pointing up to the screen while I'm just freely handling the nunchuck with the left hand. And I can just do whatever with the left hand, so long as I keep holding the nunchuck, which is very comfortable to hold. To me, this is my favorite method of controlling a game. Like, thus far, of course. Because it's flexible. It's flexible and free. And most games that released that had that control method in mind were creative enough to pack all of the options at the reach of your right hand or your left hand. And you never feel like you're out of options just because you don't have all of the options at your disposal. It's always ever so clever, and I really like the Wii Remote and Nunchuck. I really, really like the Wii Remote and Nunchuck. See? We were ranking every single input method that I have at my disposal. I'm running out of space to leave the controllers that I've reviewed so far. I did such a good job at planning this. And then I'm gonna regret it after the stream because I have to tidy up everything. Every single thing. I do this for the views. Anyways. Up next we have the Wii Classic Controller Pro. I don't own the Wii Classic Controller. And this controller right here is exactly the point in time. It's exactly the point in time. This is the diversion. This is the rapture. This is the rapture. This is the moment where Nintendo decided to standardize all of their control methods. And the Wii Classic Controller is... it's a controller, alright. It serves its job. I don't know what else to say about it. It's clear that the DualShock had a ripple into gaming history forever. And you can tell that the ripple finally reached Nintendo when they decided to make the classic controllers. But not fully committed. Not fully committed. No, that would take another generation for them to do that. Not fully committed. No. We would have to wait at least a couple of more years for them to make the full commitment into the full designs of the DualShock, because these sticks right here, they're static, they're rigid, they're GameCube sticks. Good octagonal gates though, by the way. I'm glad that that's a design from the GameCube that stuck. I hope that it's stuck forever. Also the buttons on the back. This controller, I don't know, this controller is the one that I feel the least attached to. Like, legitimately speaking, this is the controller that I feel the least attached to. At least it works better than the NES controller. I cannot like, state that. I feel like you know what? I don't want to keep talking about the Classic Controller Pro. It just brings me down. We're ever so rapidly approaching. And now... the X. I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna make it. I made it. The bulkiest, chunkiest, most jam-packed with things for your fingers to fiddle around with. The Wii U gamepad. This thing is ginormous. And I'm saying it generously, like this controller is fucking huge. If you've never held a Wii U gamepad on your hands, you would not have a way to know how big this thing is, because this thing is massive on your hands. And I'm gonna try to be extremely delicate as to how I hold this thing. There we go. So, yeah. It's the one controller that cramps me every single time. This controller is the only one controller that I have cramps on. Because it's so wide. I understand and appreciate all the little things and trinkets that are packed into this controller. Like you have a screen, and you have an NFC reader over here. Ooh! You also have a stylus over here at the side, because this thing is a touch screen. Yeah, fuck, I keep bumping the camera. And this thing is a touch screen, so you can bap it and it'll do things in the games. And over here, you have a microphone. Ooh! And it has speakers, it has a sensor bar at the top, and it has a camera. Like, what can this controller not do? At this point, please do my taxes. But it's so massive it hurts my hands to hold. There, I said it. There, I said it. I like what this controller was trying to do. I like the shape of the bumpers at the back of the triggers. Like, these are really nice to press. But I don't like holding this controller in my hands. It's bulky and big. And it weighs. It weighs. It weighs quite a lot. And you don't know it until you've like spent a couple of minutes playing this thing. You don't know it. You don't realistically know it until you've spent like an hour or so playing this game, and then you're like suddenly, why are my wrists so heavy, so in pain? And then you take a look around and you're like, oh, it was the Wii U gamepad all this time. And at that point, I might not even want to play with the Wii U gamepad. I might just plug in a Wii remote and play with Wii remote and nunchuck. Because I'm given the option. And if I'm given the option, I will take it. The biggest mistake is that Nintendo didn't include a Wii remote and nunchuck method for Twilight Princess HD or Wind Waker HD. And it still bothers me. It still bothers me to this day. So let's just save the Wii U gamepad. Let's just save the Wii U gamepad and go for the one controller that's out of my reach. Because this controller has a special like zipper case. A special zipper case. This is the Wii U Pro controller. Hold on, into there we go. This is the Wii U Pro controller. The glossy finish on this thing is so pretty. Hi! I might not really like the idea of holding this controller to the camera, so I'm gonna try and step at the side. And just hold it like this. There we go. So, what can I say about this controller? Well, I can say that I fucking love it. I love this controller. This controller is so comfy and it's so comfy on your hands. Like, I like this controller. I like how it holds. I like how it looks. I'm a fan of the design. I'm a fan of holding it like this. Like, this left stick is incredible. The shape of where your hands are resting is incredible. The side buttons, they're all really good to click and they're all really good to press on. The D-pad is nice. The face buttons are in a really comfortable position comparatively speaking. It still cramps me up if I try to use BA on this thing or YB, because why would I want to hold my thumb like that? But it is a very cool controller, and it is. I'm just gonna leave it here, and it's a controller that I think deserves a lot more credit. Regrettably, I do not think that highly of this controller. I only think that it's a high B tier. Because we saw just how many bells and whistles the Wii U gamepad has. NFC, gyro, a touchscreen, a microphone, and like the works. You can barely tilt this thing. It doesn't even have gyro. It's very lightweight from the lack of things that it has. Or the lack of things it might have had. It's a sad controller. And one that's not necessarily for the ages. I don't feel nice talking about this controller at all, because I can praise all that I can about its best features. But at the end of the day, I'm like, but is it better than the DualShock? And if the answer is kinda, I don't feel like it's better than the DualShock. I feel like it's just on par. And if it is just on par, it's just technically worse. So, back to the little socket you go. It's a good thing that we are now listening to PlayStation's Intelligent Cube Final music, because what we're gonna talk about today is the last controller that joined my ranks and my collection. The DualShock 4. See? I told you I wouldn't use the white controller. I'm gonna use the black controller for this. I'm gonna say it right off the bat, this design is precious. Like, slightly longer than the DualShock, but all the while still being quite comfortable. All the while still being pretty comfortable. It rests really well in your hands. And I haven't had an instance like right now. I'm playing 7 remake on my PS4. Now it's mine. Now it's my PS4. Yes, I finished paying my my PS4. So I've been playing 7 remake on my PS4, and it takes a while to get used to the dual analogs and such. I've also played a couple of Fall Guys on the PS4. And the most that I've played, I'm pretty sure that you've seen my streams, is Genshin Impact. I've played a lot of Genshin Impact on stream, all of it captured from the PS4 version of the game. And it works surprisingly well. I really like to play Genshin Impact on the PS4 with this controller. I feel like if the PC release of Genshin accepted a couple of more controllers, I would be interested in going back to the PC release now that I have like a dual screen setup. But regardless of that, I feel like this controller gets a lot of flack. I'm not gonna be the last that it doesn't get flack from. Here, you're just marginally better than the Super NES controllers. Because that battery life can go suck a dick. Your battery life can go suck a fat one. I do not understand why you don't have a long-lasting battery. But then again, I can also kind of see why. You have a speaker, you have a touch thingy, you have inputs for earphones and such, a light that you can't turn it off. I don't know. Like, for all the bells and whistles that this controller does, I feel like the fact that the battery just lasts so little is a detriment to its design. It's a cool design, but it's a detriment to it. Give me strength. We're at the tail end of only the controller's side. But well, all things must come to an end. So let's just make it with a bang, okay? We now reach the dog controller. My first controversial pick of the day is the Switch Joy-Con grip. This looks terrible to show on camera. This looks marginally better. The Joy-Con grip. The Joy-Con grip. The Joy-Con grip. See. Okay, to be fair to the Joy-Con grip, it is a sound control idea. It is technically a good idea to just put your two controllers together into one single handling unit. It is kind of like a good concept to have you hold all of the controls and the buttons like that. It is good in theory. In practice, it ends up being a little bit uncomfortable due to the shape. It's kind of unnatural. And oh boy, that's a snap on my wrist. It ends up being kind of uncomfortable on your hands, like after long sessions. Like, I've never gotten used to using the Joy-Cons with the grip in the middle. Like, the grip gets in my way. To me, if the grip was different, or if there was no grip at all, I would have no problem using the Joy-Cons like this. But if push comes to shove, then I feel that I have a solution to that. And boy howdy, you're not gonna exactly like what I have to say now. I don't think you're exactly prepared for this. Let me see if I can just... Let me see if I can just... Oh, there we go. You're not prepared for this. This is the first S tier. This is the very first S tier of this entire round of controls and gaming handhelds and devices. This is the very first S tier. The very first S tier. Because this is just a step up from the Wii Remote and Nunchuck, taken to infinity. Like, take everything that I said about the Wii Remote and Nunchuck, everything that I said about the Wii Remote and Nunchuck, take it and to multiply it by infinity. Like, infinity. This is the best way to hold the Joy-Cons, bar none. Because at that point, you're no longer tethered. You're no longer tethered, so both hands can be doing different things. So you can just lay down with. I'm doing the example physically. You cannot see it, but you're gonna have to imagine it. You can just lay down with your hands like on your legs or on your pockets or upside down, and you can still be using both hands to play the game. You know, and you have access to all of the buttons with ease of reach on both hands at all times, because you're not tethered anymore. Now your left hand and your right hand can do different things. And they can do different things, and you can cross off, and you can, like, I don't know, get creative. You can get creative with these. And you can tell I'm excited talking about this particular hold method because it's also comfortable to hold. I don't know, I'm more of a small form factor on my hands. And this just feels like I'm holding a tiny Wii remote, and this just feels like I'm holding a sleeker nunchuck. This is the best way of playing Switch games. Like, if all you have is just the Joy-Cons, then I feel like this is the most comfortable way of playing your Switch games. If all you had were the Joy-Cons, this is my recommended way. Back when I didn't have a Pro Controller, this is how I finished Super Mario Odyssey. This is how I approached Puyo Puyo Tetris, and this is still how I play most of my games, including, of course, Nintendo Switch Sports, which is a controller that you have to use these buttons to play. But yeah, this is the control method that has earned its safe S rank. Because it's versatile. And that's the thing that I like the most about this particular thing. It's versatility. It's incredibly versatile. I love how versatile your hands can be when using these controllers individually. How you can just rest them in a way that fits your palms the best. But now it's time to talk about them individually. And I'm sorry, they're still middle of a bang, but one of them is an A tier and the other one's not. And we're just gonna say which one is which. If you hold them like side by side, if you hold them like side by side, your first impression would be, what are you, nuts? Ranking the Wii Remote right higher than the Wii Remote left? What, are you crazy? And I'm like, I'm not crazy. I'm critical. Very, very critical. And, just so you know, me being right-handed doesn't have to do anything with the fact that the right Joy-Con is the favorite. Because the right Joy-Con has the IR camera, it has the NFC sensor, and it has the home button. If all you have is the left Joy-Con, you can just kiss your Switch goodbye. Like, at that point, why even bother turning on your Switch? Or even trying to return to the home button, which you can't without the home button. You cannot return to the home menu unless you have a home button. So of course I'm gonna be defending the Joy-Con, the right Joy-Con, more than the left Joy-Con, because the right Joy-Con has access to wake your system from sleep. Therefore, it instantly wins in the matchup of Joy-Cons versus the other one. Plus, it's not that hard to hold. If you're having problems using the right Joy-Con, that's a skill issue. That's not on me anymore. You lacked the skill test. Okay, but if my favorite control method was using both Joy-Cons individually on each hand, what would happen if Nintendo made a controller that could do all that both Joy-Cons can, but with a form factor to boot? shit. No, this is S. Ladies and gents, the first S Plus. The first S Plus. I don't even have to say anything about this controller. This controller is magnificent. This controller hold on. Hold on, 1, 2. There we go. Focus on the controller. Open up your senses. This controller is magnificent. I don't even have to say anything about the Nintendo Switch Pro controller. It is my favorite controller ever made. Ever made. This thing just feels amazing. Every single finger rests in this controller like it just molds into your hand. Every single button is at your reach. Every single face button is at your reach. The second stick is rightful to use. This left stick is so smooth. This D-pad is not exactly that bad as people say it is. And the bumpers at the top, oh my god, these bumpers are so good. This is it. This is the prime example of how far the influence from the DualShock has altered controllers to the point that we have reached to this. This is beautiful. This is absolutely beautiful. And I'm like not even gonna question it. I'm not even gonna like try and refute that fact. And it doesn't have to do with the fact that this controller is the Xenoblade 2 edition. No. Even when I got my first Pro controller, the very first black Pro controller that I got, I still loved and appreciated every single aspect design about a controller like this. To think that this controller design is so good. This controller design is so good that my dad went on to buy a Pro controller of his own that he claimed back when he got his own Switch. That is how you know how you made a good controller. That is how you know how you made a fucking banger of a controller. If someone like my father would want a controller like this for his own personal use, that's how you know you made a banger of a controller. That's how you know you made a banger of a controller. This cannot be beat. This is the peak of what I feel the home console controllers could reach. And that's unfortunate because we still have one more controller to talk about. But this is as far as the design decisions from the DualShock rippled into the future so much that it allowed this controller to be born. That it allowed this controller to reach the future generations. If Nintendo says that the Switch successor is gonna be compatible with things, I hope to God that it's gonna be compatible with the Switch Pro controller, because I don't wanna live in a world where I have to leave this controller behind. This controller has to permeate into future Nintendo consoles because its design just simply cannot be beat. There, I said everything. I said all my qualms with the Switch Pro controller, so much so that I had to make a new tier for it. What else is new? Oh, that's right. There's like a couple of other things that I have to talk about. And there's a lot of controllers loitering around in my workplace. I have to make do with these as soon as I can. Up next on our list, we have the most recent addition in terms of in terms of release order, because we are going through release order. And here's where I would put my Xbox One controller, because I used to own an Xbox One controller. And unfortunately, I don't have it with me anymore. So I cannot say about the Xbox One controller, but I do remember it feeling quite similar to this. This is the Series controller. You can tell because it has the little capture button at the center. You can tell that this is where companies far and wide decided to start going closer to what Nintendo had with the 4 different face buttons. Even if you don't count like PlayStation having 3 visible, PlayStation still has 4 option buttons, because you can still press the touchpad and it'll act as a select button on some specific games. I don't know. I feel not weird in saying that the Xbox Series controller is a high A tier, because it's definitely comfortable to hold. It definitely feels like all the design decisions from the Switch Pro were applied on this thing, but I don't know, there's something about it that I quite cannot wrap my finger around. But it's in the way that I have to hold this controller that I feel like there's something else that my hands should rest on this side. And it's this position. This position doesn't feel right to me. I don't know why. It's definitely a me problem. That's why I said that this whole list is about controllers that are at the very least a 7 or an 8. This controller is like a 9 in terms of compatibility and all the things that it does, but does it at the same time? Does it? I don't exactly feel like it does. I feel like it doesn't have enough bells and whistles, but as a basic controller, I guess it works. It is a nice controller to look at, and it is very beautiful. And the D-pad has a click. The D-pad clicks. It's very nice, and so do the front bumpers, and the buttons feel nice to mash. But still, I don't know. I like using this controller to play Kingdom Hearts. At the very least, you can get that from me. I like this controller for Kingdom Hearts. Okay. We have ended the controller side. I deserve a break, and I deserve a glass of water. I'm gonna go fill up my mug with water, and I'll be right back for another side, because we still have like a ton of machines to talk about. Still not over. Water has been attained. I have attained water. All right. Okay. For the next list, because this is not 2 tier lists, this is gonna be a combined tier list. I'm gonna zoom out just a little bit. There we go. I feel like that brings the point a little bit more across. So now we rank the rest. From here on out, everything that I'm gonna talk about is gonna be handhelds. And we have 3, 6, 9, 12, 13 handhelds. Organization 13 handhelds. No, but seriously. Okay, no, but seriously. We have 13 handhelds to talk about. And to the handhelds, we're gonna talk about them in reverse obtention order. From most recent to least recent that I got. So if I were to do that with the controllers of the home consoles, I guess that the PlayStation 4 DualShock, the DualShock 4 would have been the last controller that I would have talked, the first controller that I would have talked about, with the N64 controller being the last. But I figured that going in release order helped showcase exactly how controllers were like progressing across the ages. Also, a little bit of a change. I want to bump down the Wii Classic Controller Pro and bump the Joy-Con grip. There, the update has been complete. Okay, now we're gonna talk about handhelds. And handhelds is the part of this discussion that I like the most because I enjoy my handhelds and I enjoy a good handheld. So first, we're gonna talk about my last obtained possession, the new Nintendo 3DS XL. I don't know how to feel about this one, I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna be particularly blunt. I don't exactly know how to feel about the 3DS XL, or the new 3DS XL in that regard, because this thing is big. Like, uncomfortably big for my hands. I don't know where to start holding it, and I don't know how to reach all the buttons and all the stuff. I don't know. I guess I'll be more prone to liking this control method when I start using it as a capture card, whenever that is done, because right now it's still pretty vanilla. But like, I enjoy this, but do people really enjoy a bigger handheld? Like, it's not the same sense of form factor that you would get from, say, a controller that was bulkier or bigger. Like, the grip that you feel from a handheld is very different to the one you feel from a home console. And I feel like with the 3DS XL, for example, the new 3DS XL, to me, that same effect doesn't really apply. It's also a matter of you haven't been interacting with the new 3DS XL that long because it was your most recent acquisition. Therefore, you haven't been acquainted with its features as much as you would have liked it to. And I'm like, I agree. I wholeheartedly agree with that. But that doesn't mean that I have to agree with the fact that it's comfortable to hold. And I don't feel comfortable holding a big console. Like, not even back when I was playing with the new 3DS of my best friend, not even then did I feel like the 3DS XL was a comfortable console to hold. So there you have it. Low C for the new 3DS XL. Whew. I need a couple of breathers. This thing is exhausting. Who knew voicing my opinions would be this tiring? This taxing on me? I have to keep going. Up next we have the Game Boy Color. Kinda weird that we went from new Nintendo 3DS XL all the way back to Game Boy Color. Dinky, all Game Boy Color. I like you. I like you. I like you. You're pretty. You're cute. You're charming. And you're also very bizarre to hold. Why are you like this? Like, why are selecting start so far off from your fingers? This grip feels nice to play RPGs and such. It still bothers my thumb if I hold it like this for too long. Ow! It still hurts my thumb if I hold my fingers like that for too long. And again, a matter of getting used to the shape of the console. It's a thing that I don't finish adjusting to. But me not adjusting to it doesn't mean that I cannot appreciate it for what it is. It is very good in terms of its design. I like the Game Boy Color. I like how pretty it is. I just like you! I like you! You're pretty! But why the heck can't you be a little bit more comfortable to hold on my hands? I still love the Game Boy Color. It's nice. It's really, really pretty. But as a controller, like, if I'm playing with the Game Boy Color, I don't know, I feel like the real estate is too small for my hands to work properly. Therefore, it's just slightly better than the NES. At least that's something I can say. Up next we have... Gosh, these machines are endless. There's no end to them. Up next we have... the original Nintendo DS. Fact! I'm gonna be a fucking hypocrite. I feel like this is comfortable to hold. I feel that, I feel like the original DS is very nice on your hands. I don't know, it's something about how it holds, how it feels, how the triggers here at the sides are so mushy and like so mushy. They're so mushy. I like the shapes of both the face buttons. The D-pad is very long and soft to press, while the buttons feel clicky enough. Like the face buttons feel clicky enough to just go ham with it if you want to do that. And there's something that I haven't addressed across all the discussions regarding touchscreens, which I'm gonna end right now. Since we're closing in on the point of no return, we're closing in on the singularity point. I enjoy playing touchscreen controlled games with this stylus. It's very nice and it doesn't really scratch the screen. It's very nice to hold and it won't scratch my screen. There, I said it. Okay, so back to the thing at hand. The design of the DS feels nice in your hands. It's a very, very, very big D-pad with very, very adequately sized face buttons. It might be an illusion to me, but I feel like these are slightly smaller than the ones from the original DS. But no, like the original DS has smaller buttons than the ones from the new 3DS. But the D-pad is substantially bigger by comparison, and I like the way the feel of the original DS way more than I thought I would. Like most people criticize it nowadays because it's the original DS. It's very big, it's very bulky, and I'm like, yes, it is. It is very big. Like when you have these consoles side to side, you can tell how big and chunky the original DS is. But it's still a matter of the fact that I like this. I like how this feels on my hands. And I guess we're gonna leave the new 3DS XL over there, just so that it can act as a quote-unquote size benchmark. So we can like understand what we're talking about in terms of size. But I like playing with the DS, with the original DS, quite a lot. Quite a lot. In fact, I might say it's just one of my favorites. I might just say that. And from one of my favorites to another one of those cases where I don't exactly know how to feel about this. It's the 3DS XL. You can tell that these consoles were manufactured under some clinical eye. Because I don't know how they made it. But this thing is still pretty big. This thing is like pretty big. And for some reason, I feel like the screens of this one, despite the fact that they say that the screens of the new XL are bigger, I don't know, to me it feels like the screen of the original 3DS XL wins by a small margin. Like, size benchmark and all that. I'm gonna say that I don't enjoy the 3DS XL that much. But it's less for me to worry on than the new 3DS XL, because I don't have to reach for the knob at the top. I don't have to reach for the start and select buttons at the bottom. I can just reach them out here, which is a design carried over from the original 3DS. I don't like the D-pad. The circle pad is a circle pad. I don't know. I like the 3DS XL. I'm still gonna leave the new over here for a size benchmark. Now, how do I feel about it in terms of its grip? I have to reevaluate how I feel about the 3DS, about the new XL. I feel like putting it in C was a little bit unfair, so I'm gonna put both of them at B tier. I'm gonna put both of them at B tier, and my mind has now a little bit less to worry about. Okay, on to the next, and it's gonna be the last DS for a while. It's the DSi. Look at the size of this thing. Look at the size of this thing! Look at it! Look at the size of this thing! This thing is so tiny! Chad, look it up! Look it up! This thing is so tiny! It is so beautiful! Like, the camera doesn't get it well enough because, of course, it's fucking white on white. But this thing is beautiful! It is magnificent! And mine has a weird screen refresh ratio problem. And I don't know how to fix it. Oh look, it's the camera. Hi camera. Hello cameras. A frontal camera, a microphone, and an outer camera. And all of its buttons are clicky. I don't know how to feel about all of its buttons being clicky. But it's certainly not a bad design choice. Okay, I'm in love with these clicky triggers. If you cannot hear it, I'm gonna put it up to the mic. Ah, yes. I love that. I love that. I love that feel. I think I like the DSi. It's yet another case of one of those consoles I haven't gotten really used to. But it's a case of a console that I don't feel low on. But not exactly high on. Not Wii Remote level. Up next we have, and I never thought I would have to put another size benchmark for this. Up next, we have up next, we have the Game Boy Micro. The size benchmark doesn't make justice to this little unit. This is tiny. This is tiny, like size benchmark, please. Size benchmark, please. This thing is tiny. It fits in my entire hand. You can like hide it like this. It fits in my entire hand. It's also way more comfortable than it looks. Like, I'm not gonna lie, the form factor of the Game Boy Micro is adjustable enough and nice enough. It just fits in your pocket like so. And the screen itself is really good. I like the screen of the Game Boy Micro. It is the smallest Game Boy ever made. And I say Game Boy, I didn't say console, I said Game Boy. This is the smallest Game Boy out there in the market. No doubts about it, this is the smallest Game Boy in the market. And its design just calls to me. It's very beautiful, very portable. Like, you can fit this in your pocket, and mine has a lanyard that luckily is the same like pink tone, so I just put it like that, and then it just never lets go. It's a console that I can fit in my hand pretty easily, and it has interchangeable faceplates. And at that point, I might just say that I love this little machine. It's really beautiful. But it has some severe flaws. Like, first, being an exclusive Game Boy Advance with a removed external port that limits your accessories options, because now you have to deal with accessories that are made exclusively for the Game Boy Micro to find for your Game Boy Micro and get those accessories to work on your Game Boy Micro. Side note, this might be a teaser for another video, for another live stream that I have planned going forward, where I talk about Game Boy Advance accessories and all that stuff. But it got rid of the natural external port of a Game Boy Advance, which would have been massive if they just kept the Game Boy Advance port intact. It would have been massive. So why did they not do it? It's pretty sad because I really like the design of the Game Boy Micro, which is honestly a shame because I've always had strong criticisms against the Game Boy Micro itself. Like the fact that it only plays Game Boy games. Excuse me. The fact that it only plays Game Boy Advance games instead of being like the ultimate mini machine that could. It doesn't sit right with me, you know? It doesn't sit right with me. And I mean it in the most positive way possible. I mean it when I say that the Micro is a machine full of surprises. But God, I wish its form factor didn't directly tailor into its function factor. So for that, it's going to low A tier. Still pretty high, but not quite high enough. Up next we have a dismissive. I'm gonna remove the benchmarks of size for a bit because we have a dismissive. We've already talked about the Switch controllers and every single Switch controller, but what about the Nintendo Switch itself? It's giving me gamepad syndrome all over again. It's like, I can handle this. I can handle this. I can handle this. I can handle this a little bit better than I can the Wii gamepad, but it still doesn't feel right to hold. I don't know, it's something about holding the Joy-Cons each individually in my hands, separate from each other, untethered, that sells the concept of a Switch to me. If you pass it on to me like this with the whole console to boot, I'm sorry, but I don't feel like it's comfortable to hold. I've toyed around with a Switch Lite, and that one feels and handles like a handheld. This feels too big for my hands. It doesn't help that the stylus has to be like a multi-capacitive touchscreen, which means I cannot use the other bit of my stylus. It doesn't help like that the form factor itself isn't exactly sturdy enough because the Joy-Cons aren't capable of holding on to this thing for much longer. It doesn't help that when I play with this thing, I never find a comfortable angle to hold it because my arms are so open apart. And like I said, the Switch itself is a fantastic platform. It's a fantastic console, filled to the brim with wonderful games. And two of my favorite control methods of all time. So why is it that I don't feel good about putting the Switch itself on high C tier? I'll tell you why. It's because it's the Wii U gamepad all over again. It's the same thing that happened to me with the Wii U gamepad. It's just that easy. You know? It's just that easy. But we're not done yet. We still have 6 machines to take a look at. And this one is just a preemptive. If the new 3DS XL is too big, the regular new 3DS is just perfect. See this right here? See this machine right there? This machine is perfection. Perfection made form. This is the ultimate Nintendo 3DS system that everyone should have. And we return to the colorful buttons. Look at that. It all comes full circle. Everything comes full circle to the colorful buttons. I love these things. I love them. I love every single thing about this stupid console. This is the best machine Nintendo has ever made. The form factor is fantastic. The grip is solid. The D-pad is nice and mushy. The buttons are clicky. This stupid knob kind of works. and the back buttons are not hard to reach. I understand when I say that all of these are in the exact same position as they are in the Excel. I understand that. If you tell me that, I understand that. They're all in the same positions. Like, none of them are higher or lower. But it's the matter of when you take it in your hand. Like, my hands maybe are just shaped different because they feel more comfortable holding this because my thumb wraps around all the buttons pretty nicely and they rest easy on the console itself. Comparatively speaking, if I do that with the Excel, it feels like I'm being stretched a little bit. Like, it's just kinda hard to reach. Like, I feel the ridge. And I feel like it could be comfortable, but I don't know, it just doesn't work with me. It just doesn't work for me. But with the regular model? Oh, baby! Oh, baby! Yes, this is good. This is good. This is really, really good. I love the new 3DS. This is the perfect Nintendo machine. It doesn't help that it has the Xenoblade faceplate, but this is the perfect Nintendo machine. I adore every single detail about the old 3DS, and the new 3DS made everything about it better. We're gonna still leave the size benchmark of the new 3DS XL over there, because I have come again with controversy. Controversy is the name of this thing, and I'm gonna say it right now. If you've been unfair to the N64 controller, you owe the toast an apology too. I don't know why. By every single account, it should not make sense what I'm about to say. By every single account, it should not make any reasonable sense. It should not make any sense by any particular reason. This shouldn't work. This shouldn't work. By any reason, it shouldn't work. Because I have critiques about the new Excel and how I don't like where my thumbs rest on it. But then I look at the toast, and for some reason, this works, and I don't even know why. I just don't know why. It might be the fact that these bumpers can be clicked from the sides. It might be the fact that this whole unit is heavy. It's pretty heavy to hold. It might be the fact that everything still feels nice in the hands to hold. Because by all accounts, I should not like the 2DS that much. And look at it! I say without a doubt that everyone was sleeping on the 2DS, on the original 2DS when it released. And mine is just a cool blue because I just like how beautiful it looks in an all blue design. It just oozes charm. It's so beautiful. Look at it. Look at it. It's so beautiful. Like, it oozes perfection. And I like playing my games with here. I enjoy playing my games with the like, I admit that the new 3DS is the perfect Nintendo machine, but I say that this is the best out of the original DS revisions because this one is sturdy as fuck. You can drop it from a second floor and it still will work just fine. Do not try that. But like, if I dropped it like at this height, if I dropped it like at here, it would bump and crash and it would sound very horrible. But it would still work fine. I played Star Fox 64 3D with this one. I beat it with a 2DS. The 2DS is a nice console. Listen to those clicking buttons, please. Ah, that's the good stuff. That's the good stuff. Okay, we're almost there. Home stretch. We have four consoles to record. 4 consoles, and the benchmark will soon have filled its purpose. Up next, we have a borrowed, because unfortunately the console that I want to talk about is no longer with me. Like in terms of functionality, it's no longer with me. I had to salvage one of its parts to save this console that I'm going to talk about, and another one of its parts to create a to create another 2DS, or one that I gave to my mom. I'm speaking about the original Nintendo 3DS. Size benchmark and everything, and this thing still doesn't cease to amaze me. Of course, it's showing its age. It's a 2011 console. Like, what can you expect about a 2011 console? It of course shows its age. Like the D-pad design. Obviously, it wasn't gonna hold up if it was slanted in this form. Obviously, the face buttons are gonna show a little bit of wear and tear. Obviously, these 3 from the bottom are gonna be hard to press, and obviously, it's gonna look like roughed up and in a bad shape. But like, this design has trespassed the test of time. This has overcome the test of time. Wait, did the music stop? Did I run out of music? Oh, I haven't run out of music. Okay. I was like, what the fuck? Why am I not hearing anything? Oh, that's right. We're talking about the 3DS. So the original 3DS is gorgeous. It's gorgeous. It's premium looking, and it's pretty looking. And the games in there are packing. Every single game of the 3DS is good. Like, let's not forget that fact. Every single game in the 3DS is good. As a console, however, I don't know. What can I say? I have my qualms about it. I have my qualms about the 3DS as a console. I'm gonna leave it open because I kind of want to show it off. As a console, I feel like the 3DS itself doesn't necessarily outlive its purpose, but more so makes enjoying things with it kind of complicated due to the fact that it's, well, it's the 3DS. It doesn't have a natural way of disabling 3D because the slider on the 3D slider is just loose. It's a loose slider. For some reason, it has a wireless switch. I never understood why it had a wireless switch. The retractable stylus is a really good stylus. Like, fight me, nerds, please fight me. And what else can I say? I still hold high regards to the original 3DS design. I still hold it in high regards. Okay, last three, and then the size benchmark can leave to give space to perfection. I'm gonna have to thank the person that lended me that console a little bit later. Up next we have... Oh, that's right, I have to talk about this one first. Up next we have... Yeah, it's happening. It's happening. We're reaching that point where we're talking about nostalgia over here. The 101. No, the 01. The Game Boy Advance SP. I have mixed feelings towards the SP. On the one hand, all of its buttons being clicky, super satisfying. All of the buttons being clicky, like listen to this click. All these buttons being this clicky, super satisfying. On the other hand, we're back to the problem I had with the Game Boy Color. Why are start and select so far away that I have to get my fingers off to reach them? It's like I'm playing a sports game with this. Thumb training. Thumb training. I like the form factor of the Game Boy Advance SP because it closes off, and now it's all secure and ready to go into your pocket. I like this design in particular because it's a NES based, and if we can bring back the NES controller from its little rest, you can tell that it is heavily based off of it, but even still it has some color differences and some very taken liberties to adapt the design from this to this. Like, if I can, I'm gonna get it just for posterity because this is the console that I want to talk about. So the other one is just for posterity. But like, if you take a look at the design of the Advance SP, I had to borrow my fiance's SP. My fiance's SP. If you take a look at the SP, this is the only design that has A and B written twice. Because on the face buttons, you can tell that it says A and B, but since it's based off of the NES controller, it also has written the A and the B at the bottom. So this is the only case scenario where you would find A and B written printed twice on a controller. I feel like with this one particular Game Boy Advance SP model in particular, if the buttons were made to be convex or concave, I don't know the difference. Someone in the comments please correct me with those terms. If the buttons were of the shape of the NES buttons, of these two, are you okay? Okay, you're okay. Jesus Christ. If it was of the shape of these two buttons, I feel like the... Jesus Christ, I'm dropping everything! Are you okay? Okay, you're also okay, fine, good. I'm gonna leave you there. Oh, we've got a dent over here. Super glue and it'll be good as new. Okay. So if the buttons were in the shape of these, concave or convex out, I don't know the difference. Someone please just tell me now. But if the buttons were of this shape, of the shape of these, then maybe the design of this Game Boy Advance SP would have been a little bit more emblematic. I feel that way. I like this console because this console was the first that introduced me to Pokemon. It was the first that introduced me to Pokemon, so I'm gonna be ever so thankful to it. And I'm gonna give it a good bump because I enjoy using it a whole lot more than the original DS. I mean the original 3DS. It's a good form factor. I'm sorry that I dropped you. I'm so sorry that I dropped you. I'm gonna try to get fixed up here for you. Okay. Seemingly that did the trick, but I'm still gonna super glue it a little bit later. With a lot of care and a lot of attention. Okay. Last two consoles, I promise. I promise. Even I am tired at this point of talking so much. Up next we have the DS Lite. And I know what you are all saying. Oh my god, the DS Lite is so good of a console. It's so pretty. And it is. It is very pretty. It is very pretty. Very pretty, a nightmare to open up and clean up. I don't like tearing apart a DS Lite. And in fact, I have some of its innards lying around somewhere here. Why are you such a nightmare to open? If I can let myself be myself for a couple more minutes. I enjoy opening up like most of the controllers and consoles that you see here, aside from, you know, the Switch and especially the new 3DS XL, the new 3DS, the DS, the DS Lite, no, the DS, the DSi, and especially the DS Lite. This machine, this wondrous machine of so many giggles and laughs, is as feeble as glass. Like as feeble as untempered glass. You'll look at it wrong and it'll tear its ass on you. It's very mushy with the buttons. It's very mushy with the buttons. I like these buttons. These buttons are mushy. But I feel better using the buttons from the original DS. I feel like if the buttons from this side were on the original DS's right side, we would be having a very different conversation about how I feel of the original DS. This rules in a way that you have to treat it like it's jewelry, like it's a very expensive item, like it's, if you dare look at it wrong, it'll just break. Size benchmark one more time. But I don't know, if you hold it like a notebook, it still feels great to hold, and it still feels great to like manipulate things, and it still has clicky triggers. You hear that? I do know you like your clicky triggers. I know that I've said a lot of bad things about the DS Lite, but can you blame me? I still like the DS Lite. I like it quite a lot. Not as much as I'd like the... Hold on, I would like to make a little bit of an amendment. I feel like these have made its way up to S tier. The DS Lite is like the top of A tier. There, the amendment has been complete. The addendum has been completed. And now, the stage is set. Every single console that I've talked about today has led me up to this. Every single platform that I've showcased, and every single controller that I had to painstakingly take into my hands, has led me up to this moment. To the one that started it all. To the thing that I feel cannot be beat by anything whatsoever. What I feel is the cleanest machine to ever be manufactured by Nintendo. To be the most wonderful form factor. To be so good that even in 2024, I'm still baffled at the fact that none of the other handhelds have managed to get a form factor like this. Every single one of them tries. Every single one of them has attempted something. Every single one of them seemingly has attempted something. Not this. Not this. Because no other machine can come close to beating the peak perfection that is the original Game Boy Advance. No other machine can ever come close to that. No machine can come close to this. I mean, can you look at this? Can you look at this? You have eyes. You use those eyes to see perfection made form. See, this is a part of the whole stream where my bias will just take the best of me, and it will. It rightfully has to. This is the machine that I'll always be biased for, because at the age of 8, it set such a good precedent on me, such a good precedent for the future of gaming, that I feel like this cannot be beat. It's only marginally slower than a new XL, and even then I feel like this is sturdier than a new XL. I still feel like the original Game Boy Advance's form factor, and I have both my go-to Game Boy Advance and my original Game Boy Advance to boot. I feel like the Game Boy Advance, in terms of design, is everything, because it blends both the functionality of a handheld console with the form factor of a controller, of like a home controller, and that in and of itself is nice. Everything is at your reach. You don't feel any layers of uncomfortableness. Start and select are easy to reach. Everything on the Game Boy Advance is at your beck and call. The form and the shape of the GBA is so comfortable. It rests in your hands like the Pro Controller of the Switch would. If I say that the Switch Pro Controller is the best controller ever made, I mean it. I genuinely mean it. I genuinely say that the Switch Pro Controller is the best controller that has ever been made. And I can testify to that. But if I say that the Game Boy Advance is the finest piece of machine that Nintendo has ever made, I say that out of bias. And that is my biased pick, and that'll always be my biased pick. To me, the GBA is the perfect machine. To me, the GBA is the ultimate gaming console. To me, it's always going to be my favorite, no matter how many years pass by, how much the landscape of gaming changes. I will always look back and try and return to the Game Boy Advance. Every single time, every single game that I play, it always takes me back to the form and function of 2 face buttons, 2 bumpers, a D-pad, and 2 options buttons. It always takes me back. Every single time, at every single spot, and every single adventure that I have, I always return to the GBA. And everything brings me back to it. I still say that the new 3DS XL, the new 3DS, the small new 3DS, I still say that the new 3DS is the perfect Nintendo machine in general. And that's objective. That's an objective point of view. That's my objective opinion, that the new 3DS, like the small new 3DS, is the perfect Nintendo machine. And I am not wrong on that. It is the definitive Nintendo machine. Nintendo will never make a console as good as the new 3DS, as the small new 3DS. Nintendo will never make a console as good as the new 3DS. Never. Never in their life will they top quantity and quality as the new 3DS had. Quantity, quality, accessibility, and all the other options that it has. It never will ever come close to that. But I'm saying that the Game Boy Advance, the original Game Boy Advance, in terms of form factor, in terms of functionality, in terms of comfort, this is it. 2001, Nintendo decided to make the most comfortable gaming handheld ever. And it's beautiful. It is so beautiful. Like this is the. I may still have my my original GBA, but this one carries the soul of so many games under the sun. So many adventures lived under the coats of pillows and under the coats of pillows. So many road trips, so many things that I've seen with the GBA. I can just not put it highest as S tier. Like at the highest of S plus tier. Because to me, it's the perfect middle ground between comfort and wonderful. And also bias, a lot of bias. What are we but a bias machine? Bias is everything. Bias is all that I have. Bias is all that I can share. Bias is all that I can share. Okay, a little addendum. I think I was a little unfair to the DualShock 4. I'm gonna bump it up to high A tier. I'm still gonna leave the DualShock, like the regular DualShock, like there, as the benchmark for all the other controllers and all the other controller like DualShock-like controllers that are below. I feel comfortable in saying that I really like, really adore, maximally love, and utterly appreciate these three. And if I could use all of these three in every single one of my games going forward, I would be extremely thankful, because I feel at ease with small form factor controllers or controllers that just blend well with my hands. Like, I wouldn't exactly call my hands huge. Like, hold on, let me just get a good shot of my hand. Here's my hand. I wouldn't exactly say, it looks so weird on camera. Like, oh my god, Jesus Christ, get those out of there. Wow, oh, those fingers. Ugh. Okay, but seriously though. If we were to rank my hands, like, these are long fingers. These are long fingers, and therefore they can wrap up around the controller very nicely. Wrap it around the controller very nicely, and that's at the end of the day what I want to feel with a controller. That's exactly what I want to feel with a controller. I want to feel that everything will just rest in place. With the original Game Boy Advance, there's one thing that no other console has. A place to rest your indexes. Like, look at this ridge over here. The little ridge that forms between the cartridge slot and the rest. These little ramps that you have here. Your index naturally rests on those if you're not using them. Like, they just land on them. They stick in there. And it feels nice. I don't get cramps using any of these. I don't get cramped thumbs. I don't get cramped thumbs. I don't get like carpal tunnels. I don't exactly feel like I'm at a loss when I'm using any of these methods. I like and enjoy playing all my games with these controls, because at the end of the day, that's exactly what I love. These three are the ones that I love, and especially this one. This one, it's because it's the perfect Nintendo machine. This one, it's because it's the best controller Nintendo ever made. This one is just bias. A lot of bias. Absolutely a lot of bias. I love the Game Boy Advance. And I don't know how to finish this video. I guess that in the end, all what I say about the consoles that I own or the controllers that I use is more so a defense of me stating that I love each and every single individual gameplay input method. Except for the Wii U gamepad, I don't see myself using the Wii U gamepad. But like, if I could play like Switch games with my GBA in a more comfortable way than just connecting it through just tethering it through the GameCube to Game Boy Advance Game Link cable, in a way that would make less of a clutter of wires, I would do that. I would play my Switch games with my GBA if I were able to do that, because I would be able to combine both of the things that I love. It's the same thing if I was able to use my GBA to control PC games or just play emulated Game Boy or Game Boy Advance games on my PC using my GBA as a controller. I would love to do that. I would absolutely love to do that. Because again, it's the form factor. And it's the creativity. You can and will be able to play any game out there if you have 4 actions. Stop trying to cram all actions into 16 buttons, you jerks! Is it 16? 4 face buttons, 4 triggers, 4 directional buttons, 2 option buttons, and 2 stick buttons. Yeah, that's 16. What I'm saying is be creative. Be creative. And I don't know how to finish this whole thing. I guess I just love console gaming. I love console gaming so much that I can talk about these controllers for 2 hours. I can talk about these controllers for 2 hours, and you'll be able to listen to me ramble about these controllers for 2 hours, and I thank you for sticking by the 2 hours. And if you're watching from YouTube, say hi. Say hi and leave a like. Also, wow. Hold on, let me revise this. Let me do a little bit of a revision before going off with this thing, because okay, let's see. I feel a little bit stronger about the Game Boy Color. feel as strong about the left Joy-Con or the right Joy-Con. I feel stronger about the Wii Remote. I feel like I can get used to the XL variants of the consoles. I feel stronger about split Joy-Cons and split Joy-Cons, the 2DS and the Xbox Series controller. Everything else is fine as it is. This is it. This is my official personal tier list of input methods. And we're gonna download it. Yeah, we're gonna download this thing. Okay. Good. Hold on. Wait. There we go. So this is it. This is all of my opinions regarding gaming, console gaming. You see a lot of Nintendo here, and it's fine because I was raised a Nintendo kid. But even with my Nintendo bias showing, I still show appreciation. A lot of appreciation for the original DualShock, a lot of appreciation for the DualShock 4, which I think it's a good controller with a terrible battery life, and a lot of appreciation for the modern Xbox Series controller, which I think it's nice. It's a pretty controller with lots of bells and whistles. It still doesn't hold a candle to the Switch Pro controller, which is, in my opinion, the perfect controller ever made. Also, I just love handheld gaming. I love handheld gaming. I think my entire history in regards to gaming has been comprised of 75% of handheld gaming. The Game Boy Advance easy marks like 60% of that. And the 3DS like 40%. And at that time, I don't even know what I'm talking about. I don't know how to finish this video, so we're just gonna move on to the stream end screen. So, those were 2 hours. Wouldn't you say? Next week we have the break week, as you know, Paper Mario is frozen in time until until the week after. But we're gonna be back with Pokemon Crystal Clear on Monday because that's a weekly now. And as for the other streams, stay tuned because those will be updated on Sunday. So, yeah, those were some interesting 2 hours. Thank you so much for watching. I love you all. You're a wonderful audience, and I hope you have a fantastic weekend. Take care, and don't wait. Just be off and do your own thing. Take care, enjoy your weekend, and have a good one. I've been Yap Alonso. I'll see you on Monday for more Pokemon Crystal Clear. Bye!